a beautiful day, man. It's a beautiful day to play football. It's a beautiful day to play football. You gotta love it.
It's a beautiful day to watch football, too. John and Lovie Smith in his second season in Tampa Bay. They've already got more wins this year than they did all of last season when they were 2-14. Meanwhile, for the Cowboys, they are reeling right now. The Lone Star slump. 6-game losing streak since Tony Romo got hurt in Week 2 against Philadelphia. They haven't had a streak like that since '89, first year of Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman and company. Two teams, though, have made the playoffs with a 6-game losing streak in the same year, and the Panthers did it last year. So Jason Garrett knows today is a must-have.
Well, and Jason Garrett knows that. Jason Witten, their future Hall of Fame tight end, he really communicated that they really believe at the end of the day they're going to be in the hunt. The division has played out such that they're not out of this. They know this game is absolutely critical to that goal.
Cowboys won the toss, elected to receive, and here we go. From Tampa Bay, Barth kicks it out of the end zone, and the Cowboys will come on offense first with Matt Castle, traded from Buffalo to try and kind of bridge the gap to Tony Romo. Good news for the Cowboys and their fans. He's coming off his best performance.
Well, he is. And, you know, I don't think people understand how hard it is. I don't care how many years you played in this league. At that position, to hit it going mid-stride, mid-season. His wife was 36 weeks pregnant, but he feels more comfortable. He did play his best game last week.
First and 10 from the 20 as we get it going from Tampa Bay. Darren McFadden is the tailback, and he'll get it. Stretching left and going nowhere. Levante David was there to make the stop. And for this Dallas team, yeah, they're on a losing streak. We know that. They need this game. We know that, but there's been a lot going on with them. We take a look at the storylines. Yeah, 0-for without Romo. Haven't won a game without him. Drama, all kinds of it. I mean, with Greg Hardy and Des Bryant and blow-ups with the media, it's just been a lot of distraction there. We'll talk about that as the game goes on. And then give it, but not take it away. They're giving the ball away, but they are not getting turnovers, and that's got to change starting right now. Second down and 10 for Dallas. Castle, four-man rush, comes near side. He's got a completion. It's Des Bryant who makes the catch. Short gain, third and long.
You know, in talking to Castle last night at the hotel, he told me how critical it is. He's played with Randy Moss, these greats. He said they're great receivers. They want the ball, though, and it's important to feed them early because that kind of calms Des down. And so going to Des Bryant early is always a good thing because of his talent, but also it kind of settles him in and keeps him happy, basically.
Yeah. And so they get him involved, but now a third down and 6. Flag. Indication it's on the Cowboys. Bill Vinovich, our referee today. He's a good one.
False start. Offense number 82. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
That's on Jason Witten. What happened, John?
Well, it wasn't much. He's holding, not used to the count. Just a little flinch. And that's enough for the officials to call it, and rightly so.
And that makes it a much tougher third and 11. Castle going to set up the screen. This McFadden looking for a block, showing the speed, close, but he's going to come up, I believe, a little bit short. That had some promise. But he comes up short, and the Cowboys will have to punt it away.
Well, it's a tremendous play by a rookie middle linebacker, Quan Alexander, who, quite frankly, when I watched the film, Kevin, he's been the best defensive player on this team this season. And Quan Alexander makes his presence known early with a tremendous tackle short of the line to gain.
Bobby Rainey's had some good returns this year. In fact, he had a 58-yard return, so he's been dangerous for this unit for the Bucs. Chris Jones will punt it away. So a 3 and out for this Cowboy offense. Jones gets it away. Low sinking punt takes a Buccaneers bounce, and they'll have it in pretty good field position to start. Right around their own 30. So we will take a look at the rookie, the Heisman winner, Jameis Winston, who, well, we've really seen him grow in this half a season already. First 4 games, he did what he did at Florida State, and that is turn the ball over a few times. 7 interceptions, 1 fumble, and you see the rating. But what has he done the last 4? Well, he's starting to come on. 4 touchdowns throwing, 2 touchdowns rushing, no turnovers for Jameis Winston, and the Bucs are playing better.
Yeah, and the low point of that season at the start was the Carolina game. Going against a good defense, had 4 interceptions. He came back, told his coach, Lovie Smith, I can't turn the ball over. He hasn't since, and he's been phenomenal.
1st and 10 for the Bucs. Here's Doug Martin, goes nowhere. Stymied at the line of scrimmage by Rolando McClain, who was questionable today with a hand injury, but he's in there.
Well, Kevin, and it's critical that Rolando McClain, who hasn't been playing well, plays big, because Sean Lee out again with the concussion. Anthony Hitchens, he hurt his ankle last week, and so it's just critical without that man, Sean Lee, that Rolando McClain plays up to his capabilities.
Lee is so good. He's just never been able to stay on the field for a full season. 2nd and 10. Winston time over the middle, and he's got himself a completion. It is Evans trying to rip it out, and he's got 5, so 3rd and 5 is coming up. So for these Buccaneers, 3 and 5 on the season coming in, but there have been some positives for an organization that's trying to turn themselves around. For the franchise quarterback, is it Jameis Winston? Everybody in the building thinks so, but more to come. Too many penalties. They've had some bad penalties too. And the stars, John, have to play like stars. The veterans, the big guys, haven't done it the last few weeks.
Well, it's guys like Gerald McCoy, Lavonte David on defense, and Mike Evans on offense. We just saw him make a catch. A lot of drops in the last couple games.
3rd down. Winston all kinds of time. Now he's pressured, in trouble, breaks a tackle, and now he's dropped. Tyrone Crawford is the guy that finished it up, and the Bucs go 3 and out.
See the Dallas folks making their presence known, as is the coverage unit for the Dallas Cowboys. This is a coverage sack. Man-to-man defense. A great job by Claiborne, by Brandon Carr. Tight coverage. Jameis Winston with nowhere to go with the ball. And Tyrone Crawford, who's had a slow season, Kevin, he's there to finish off Jameis Winston.
Jason Shum will punt it away. The special teams for Tampa Bay have been great. They haven't allowed barely a return. Here's Beasley looking for a hole. There's a return for Cole Beasley. Well, that was the jinx for Tampa Bay. As soon as you put that stat up, despite a good punt, Beasley with a good return of 22. And the Cowboys will have it for the 2nd time in great field position. We are scoreless early going from Tampa.
Today's game is sponsored by Southwest. Transparency. No fares, nothing to hide.
Scoreless in this first quarter. 2nd possession for Dallas. They've got great field position thanks to Cole Beasley, who hasn't always been the punt returner for this team, but their special teams returns needing a boost, and he just gave it to him.
Absolutely. He played big in the slot last week, had a career day, and contributing on the special teams units today.
Des Bryant matched up against Sterling Moore, former Cowboy, top of your screen. On 1st down, draw. McFadden, good stutter step. Good run from Darren McFadden, who, John, the last 3 weeks, this Dallas running game is starting to resemble what it did last year.
Well, Kevin, without question, this is the best offensive line in football, and Darren McFadden now is playing like a running back, like DeMarco Murray. You see that cut and then the speed downhill. This is a guy who's always been blessed with incredible talent. Staying healthy has been an issue. He's been healthy, and he's been phenomenal the last 3 weeks.
27 carries for 117 yards last week. We'll get it again. Up the middle. Close to a 1st down. And the last 3 weeks, to finish that thought, only Todd Gurley of the Rams has more rushing yards. And this is a guy, you know, he was great at Arkansas, but he just has never been able to stay healthy. And coming into this year, even Jason Garrett admitted that he wasn't even sure if he would be healthy enough to contribute.
He said he comes in the spring, he's got a hammy, he's got a groin, They weren't sure they could count on him. They went all in with Joseph Randle. It didn't materialize. He got in there 3 weeks ago, and the rest is history. He's playing great football.
3rd and a couple inches. And he's got the first. So all Darren McFadden on this drive, and the Cowboys move the chains.
And this is really the identity that Jason Garrett wanted from this offense this year. They wanted to be a physical, run-the-football team, and then the play action off of that. Because the run game hasn't been going, the play action has struggled.
Here they put Cole Beasley, the wide receiver, in the backfield on 1st and 10. Castle. And steps up. He has room to run. And he takes a good look, and he lost the football. Quan Alexander belted Castle. And it looks like he got it back.
Kevin, this Quan Alexander continues to make his mark. He sees things, he goes and gets it. And he's just a guy who is always either intercepting the football, stripping it. He's one of these playmakers, and they found a good one in Quan Alexander, a rookie playing at a high level.
McFadden on 2nd down. Not much, 1.5 yards. 3rd down coming up. Yeah, Quan Alexander is he's an interesting story, John. I mean, the guy was a 4th-round draft pick out of LSU. He's only 21 years old, and just awful news for him. His brother shot in a fight in Alabama, just 17 years old. He played against the Falcons 2 days later.
And boy, did he play. I mean, he had an extraordinary game, and Quan even told us it had to have been my brother helping me make those plays. He was extraordinary, and he's been great all year.
3rd and 6. 4-man rush. Castle fires a bullet over the middle. There's reliable Jason Witten, and he stopped at the 30. It's good enough for a Cowboys 1st down in a 7-yard gain.
Well, Kevin, I alluded to that offensive line. They're really good in the run game. They're also very skilled. Watch Zach Martin, I think the best guard in football. That's a great matchup to watch all day against Gerald McCoy. He finishes. He's in great athletic position, and that allows Matt Castle to find Jason Witten. A great security blanket over the middle.
7th play of this Cowboys drive. Witten has been an Iron Man. Fake to McFadden. Gets a block, and he's got Bryant wide open. Far side of the field. Moore in on the tackle, but Bryant's close to another Dallas first.
And if you're a Cowboys fan, you got to be excited. You can just see it. The comfort level for Matt Castle. It's starting to happen. This is a guy that can play some football. It's not open in the middle. He takes his time, goes through the progression. Des Bryant gets open. He delivers a nice, accurate football. Matt Castle really starting to play good football here the last 2 weeks.
Castle off to a good start. Here's McFadden on 2nd and 1. 1st down, good spin. And he gets it down to the 16, a gain of 5. And so the Cowboys putting together a nice drive on their 2nd possession. And now here is where Tampa Bay has had real issues, John. Their red zone defense has been deplorable. They've allowed teams to score once they get inside the 20, 67% of the time. It's the worst in the NFL.
Yeah, and frankly, this goes back to stars being, your stars got to play like stars. One of those stars, Gerald McCoy, just came off the field. But this is an area, frankly, where your best players, Levante David, Gerald McCoy, you've got to be huge for your team.
I like Darren McFadden as a wide receiver at the bottom of your screen. Castle looks that way, goes back right, pumps, fires a little high. They're looking for Des Bryant over there, covered by Werner. And it'll be a 2nd down.
Well, good coverage and really a good decision by Matt Castle. What he's doing at the end of this play, you see the coverage, man-to-man coverage, Sterling Moore, the former Cowboy. But Matt Castle's throwing that ball up. It's a good idea with Des Bryant. He learned that last week. Des Bryant can go get it, but he's saying either Des is going to make a play or it's going to be out of bounds. A good decision by Castle.
Of course, if Des made that play, he would have been Gumby, but that's a whole other story altogether.
Not so sure he's not.
2nd down. A lot of time and incomplete. It looked like they were trying to set up the screen, but the Bucks were all over it.
Now, Levante David, one of those stars that has been struggling this year, all over it. He saw the screen, he diagnosed it, he went and got it. You see Levante David right here. He's going to see the screen. He goes and attacks Darren McFadden. There's no play for Castle, who again makes an otherwise decision, throwing it away.
Bucks are playing without their leading sacker today again, Jacquez Smith, who's been out with an ankle injury, so they've got to find a way to generate a pass rush on a 3rd down and 10. Blitz. Castle in trouble, and down he goes. It's Alexander.
Now, this is a Tampa defense. You see Quan Alexander, he's going to loop around. That hasn't played a lot of blitz coverage because they haven't trusted their corners. They inserted 2 new corners, Sterling Moore and Jude I.J. Barima last week, and now they're emboldened. They're playing a little more aggressive coverage. Quan Alexander, the beneficiary, on a nicely timed blitz.
Dan Bailey is actually the most accurate kicker in the NFL, the history of it. He's made 19 in a row. This is from 42 yards out. And Bailey puts it home. But the Tampa defense holds in the red zone. Cowboys take the lead, 3-0, first quarter, Tampa Bay.
Today's game is sponsored by Bud Light. Make the right call. Drink responsibly.
Tony Romo playing the role of therapist on the right on the cooler, John, trying to give a little help to Scott Linehan, the offensive coordinator, sitting next to Matt Castle, who looked good on this scoring drive. Was set up by a good punt return by Cole Beasley. But for the Bucks, they hold in the red zone, which they haven't done much of. So good for both teams. But the Cowboys up 3-0. Bailey will boot it away. Rainey will take a knee. Buccaneers football on their own 20. Coming on up, it is the rookie Jameis Winston. Boys, he played well the last couple weeks.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram. Buy Pizza Hut's Triple Treat Box. Make any night a holiday. And by Visa Checkout, the easier way to pay online. Sign up now.
Perfect day in Tampa Bay. Really is 75 degrees. Cloud cover, some nice breeze, and a full face of paint. Big football game for both these teams. Cowboys lost 6 in a row. Bucks 3-5. Both hoping to hang on to their playoff hopes here. And here's Winston on the boot. Going to sling it near side. And he's got Jaworski Lane, the fullback, getting him involved, and that is his 2nd catch of the year. So Jameis Winston, well, we sat down with him yesterday, John, and tell you what, his personality is pretty infectious.
Yeah, it really is. It's electric, it's dynamic, and he's a natural leader. You know, I have my own feelings coming in. I thought Mariota was the guy, but in studying Jameis Winston for this game, he really grows on you. He's a guy that really has great leadership qualities, has some intangibles. He can throw the football very well. I think he's got a big future ahead of him.
Martin. Oh, good cut. Doug Martin, first down for the Bucks. Before McClain brought him down. I think, this is a guy that at Florida State, look, he had some issues. He ran into trouble. He made some bad decisions. I think we know that. But everyone here, over the top talking about him, and I think when you're around him, you could see why. I mean, Gerald McCoy was gushing about how he's already become the leader. It's 8 games into his rookie year.
He said he can't help himself. They asked him to hold back and let it happen naturally. Well, it has, and it's his team.
Martin. Good hard run from Doug Martin. He's out to the 39. He's going to pick up 7 yards.
Doug Martin burst into this league 4 years ago and was running roughshod on opponents, and then he kind of went away. Last year didn't have a great year. He's back. Doug Martin is running with power, running with authority. He's got a lot of big runs. 3rd in this league on 10-plus runs to 2 pretty good runners in Adrian Peterson and Todd Gurley.
2nd and 3, give it to him again. Breaks the initial tackle and then surges forward. I think he's going to be a little shy of a first down. Well, you talked about that rookie year. It's a Pro Bowl year, John, in 2012. He had over 1,900 yards from scrimmage. He finally looks like that guy again. Coming in 5th in the league in rushing. He's a great threat out of the backfield.
He's got a great mix of patience. He's got speed, burst, and then he's got power. He's 223 pounds, and so those little guys, they were the toughest for me to tackle because they kind of bounce off you when you hit them.
On 3rd and 1, give it to him again. Big hole. Doug Martin still going and batted down at the 41. It's an 18-yard run for Doug Martin and a first down.
Well, this offensive line that Doug Martin is running behind came into the year as a question mark, but watch the surge. Controlling the line of scrimmage, they push the Cowboys back. The Cowboys not on their run gaps. A great job by the right guard, Evan Smith, who's filling in for Ali Marpet, a rookie who's out. And Doug Martin slithers through there, continues to run quite effectively.
Winston to throw. Pressure. He's in trouble. Unloads over the middle. In and out of the hands of Russell Shepard, a third-year man who's getting more time because Vincent Jackson is injured and he's still not in there today. He could have made that catch.
Well, Jameis Winston got away with one there because Ryan Jones, the free safety, 31 back here, makes a great read on this football. Goes and attacks the football. Takes a bad angle, though. But that ball very easily could have been picked. So Jameis Winston got away with one right there.
Ready. Blue lady. Look at it.
Pitch out on 2nd down. Martin gets through McClain's tackle. He's tough to bring down. Doug Martin's already broken 3 tackles today. And this another good run. It's down to the 34.
Well, Doug Martin, we talked about the power, and the way you recognize power is just that, running through tackles. Rolando McClain, a very strong human being. He runs right through that tackle of Rolando McClain. Doug Martin, fast, tough, and physical.
That should take us to the end of the first quarter. Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator, has done a nice job with this young team, and they're on the move. Bucks on the move. A 3rd down. We come back. 3-0 Cowboys after 1 from Tampa. We start the second quarter. 3-0 Cowboys. Bucks have a 3rd down and 3 from the 34. They're already in field goal range.
25.
Pressure. Winston gets rid of it. Incomplete. He had no choice. Pressure was coming from the left side. It was Crawford and Hardy getting in there, and now a field goal try.
And it's really good coverage by Morris Claiborne. He's been playing well today. He's been struggling coming into this game. They try to isolate Dye in the slot. Greg Hardy with the pressure, and McClain undercuts Dye with a nice pass breakup.
So here's Connor Barth. Since he was re-signed, he's been terrific. 13 of 14 on field goals. He was hitting from 55 from warm-ups. This a 52-yarder. And it puts the Bucks on the board. Connor Barth, a long field goal. And Tampa's tied this up, a 52-yarder from Barth. And just got enough to get it over, but it works. And we're tied at 3.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by the Ford F-150. Every other truck is history. By Otezla. Ask your doctor today. And by Microsoft Surface, the official tablet of the NFL.
That's Artie Kempner, our director. That sounds about right. Pete Macheska, our producer. Both out there on the jet skis this morning on the bay. John, you and I just had a nice quiet breakfast.
Oh, boy.
Here's the kickoff, tied at 3. It's a short kick, taken by Rod Smith. Good hole, good return. And Dallas out across the 30. And ball come loose, little scrum there. Cowboys football after the return by Smith. So Castle comes out. He's had a pretty good start, 406 for 30 yards. Yeah, it's funny, John, you look at that, and the Cowboys actually time of possession in the league are first in the league. And man, we were talking before, it's almost like time of possession doesn't even matter anymore.
I know. Remember, that was always a stat that really correlated with winning and losing. If you look at the top time of possession teams, they aren't the teams on the top of this league right now.
So Dallas has moved the ball and held the ball, but hasn't scored at a rapid pace. They'll fake here and then come in near side, and they've got Lucky Whitehead on the catch. Meanwhile, we've got our first game break of the day. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
All right, Carolina trying to remain unbeaten on the season. Tennessee has other thoughts. Dexter McCluster, 25-yard touchdown run. You know he's bounced back and forth between wide receiver and running back. That's his first rushing touchdown since 2011, tied at 7. Kevin, John, and Pam.
Oh, thanks, Kurt. Mike Mularkey, Coach of the Year, John. Those are the standings. Carolina's been perfect. Tampa's still in the mix if they get a win today. Here's McFadden. Good block. And McFadden gets the edge and lays down the shoulder for a nice run of 7.
You know, Kevin, we talk about Jason Witten, his great career, how prolific, but these are the little things that Jason Witten, they use him as, they call that a crack block, and nobody does it better than Jason Witten. Then you get your left tackle, Tyron Smith out there. It's not normal that a 330-pound man can move that quickly, and that's what makes Tyron Smith one of the great offensive tackles in football.
I mean, he just gave him a little jab. Meanwhile, Jude Barima, who has played very well since inserted into the starting lineup, just left under his own power. So Mike Jenkins, number 24, the ex-Cowboy, in there. 3rd and 3. Four-man rush. Castle with time. There's Jason Witten. All the way down. Near the 35, they're going to say he went out of bounds at the 38. It's a gain of 24.
Well, when you get man-to-man defense, which the Bucs are playing, Matt Castle has a lot of great weapons at his disposal. You see the protection. You got Des Bryant out there. You also have Jason Witten. He chooses Jason Witten on this play, and Matt Castle delivers with a really nice throw. And these are some of the throws that he actually does best. These cross-country, deep-over type routes is something Matt Castle throws very well.
Castle throwing the ball well, and he picks up a 3rd down. So it's 1st and 10. And it's McFadden up the middle. And McFadden taken down at the 32.
Kevin, this offensive line that they've constructed, you give Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, a lot of credit because they've got some flat-out football players. You just look at the surge right here collectively. Zach Martin and Travis Frederick in the middle. La'el Collins, they just add him to the mix. Gerald McCoy almost says, hey, it's not fair. They had the best offensive line in football, and then they add La'el Collins this year that makes them even better.
2nd and 4. McFadden, patience, and a short gain. You talked about La'el Collins, and it's amazing how the Cowboys got him. You mentioned it could be a 1st-round draft pick. He was, involved because his name got involved with this double murder investigation that he had absolutely nothing to do with. But because he was called in for questioning, obviously teams weren't going to touch him. And then free agents, he goes and visits teams, and the Cowboys sign him. So that's how they get this guy. He would have been taken in the 1st round, according to every expert out there. Third and 3. McFadden taken down behind the line of scrimmage. It's Howard Jones. And McCoy busted up that play as well.
And this is a situation where Matt Castle, I don't know if he has the freedom, but look at all these bodies. They're outnumbered. This is where you've got to change that call to a pass because you're just simply outnumbered. Gerald McCoy gets the penetration, but that's just a game of numbers right there, and Howard Jones wide open makes the tackle.
So Dan Bailey will attempt a 53-yard field goal. A career long for him is 56. This would be his longest of the year. A wobbler, and it hits the post and goes in. Doink. When it's going right, it's going right. And Dan Bailey now has 21 consecutive field goals. It went through. It's all that matters.
Well, I spoke of the game of numbers. We hear about 8-man boxes. Well, it's a spread formation, so it's a 7-man box. The Bucks have 7. The Cowboys only have 6 to block. And Des Bryant's saying the same thing. You got that many people. I got a one-on-one. Give me the ball.
Bailey just got that 53-yard field goal through. Kicks it off, and a kneel down from Rainey. Tampa football. They're down 6-3 in the second quarter.
Today's game is sponsored by Kay Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K.
There's a new tradition in college basketball you don't want to miss. The Gavitt tip-off games, pitting the Big East against the Big Ten. 4 days of incredible action. It begins Tuesday with Nebraska taking on number 11 Villanova at 8:30 Eastern, only on FS1. 6-3 Cowboys over the Bucks. 10:34 to go in the first half. Tampa football on their own 20. Charles Sims in at running back. Fake it to him, and Winston going to throw. And he's going to throw deep for Evans. And he can't make the play, but here comes the penalty flag. It was Morris Claiborne on the coverage.
They're going to get Claiborne for the defensive pass interference. But I applaud Jameis Winston for being aggressive here. You've got Mike Evans, and he's a rare talent at that wide receiver position. He's been struggling with the drops, but you like him on one-on-one situations.
Defense number 24. Flat foul. Automatic first down.
You know, Kevin, so much of cornerback play is at that moment of truth, just not panicking. Turn, look, and lean, they talk about. Look for the football, lean into the receiver. But when you panic and start playing the man as opposed to the ball, those things are going to happen.
It's a 45-yard penalty on Claiborne as they went up top to try and hit Evans. Evans coming off a big game. And we get another penalty.
False start. Offense number 76. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
So that's on Donovan Smith, the rookie left tackle. So Evans coming off a big game, John, but what's been plaguing him, even though his numbers are good, and this whole Bucs team, drops, and not just drops, but mistakes across the board. That's why they're 3-5. They've had some games they could have won.
Well, we asked Lovie Smith what needs to happen for this team to take off. He said too many penalties. We're killing ourselves pre-snap, post-snap. That's a perfect example of it.
On a 1st and 15, here's the first carry for Charles Sims. Second-year man out of West Virginia. Let's go down to the sidelines with Pam Oliver.
Well, Kevin, these are some very strange times for the Dallas Cowboys. It's Week 10. They have 2 victories that their playoff hopes still spring eternal. Head coach Jason Garrett, he believes in the mantra, don't blink. Cornerback Brandon Carr told me that the players really do believe that. Carr said this week in practice, there was a real sense of urgency at the highest level. Kevin?
Pam, you know, and it's interesting you say that, and we'll tell you after the play. 2nd and 12 for Tampa. But that's why you see the division, and that's why the Cowboys are still in it. Winston, it's blocked up. He's got time. He's going deep again. And this time it's out of bounds. He's actually looking for Sims, the running back. It'll bring up a 3rd down. But, John, you know, I have to say, yeah, it could be the easy thing to say, but you just didn't sense panic talking to the Cowboys yesterday.
No, in fact, Jason Witten said, hey, we believe we're going to be in the hunt. This game's absolutely critical to that. But, you know, look, they know they're getting their leader, Tony Romo. Likely he will be back next week, and they know that's going to give them a huge lift. They also know that they have to be better collectively as a team, but they feel like that's going to happen. This team's had a lot of distractions, but they say to a man that they've got a great spirit in that locker room.
3rd down, Winston over the middle, high for Evans, and it's incomplete. He had Evans open, and he just overshot him.
And that's one thing, Kevin, that Jameis Winston...
Hold on, late flag, John, now in the secondary. Jason Garrett, if he relivs.
Illegal contact. Defense number 27. 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
It's on J.J. Wilcox. You said Garrett said that was about after the play 3 seconds, it looked like he was saying. I don't know if it was on Wilcox. It might have been on Claiborne. It was on the coverage. Let's see if we can see it.
Well, J.J. Wilcox is the center fielder, so I don't believe it's J.J. Wilcox. It could well be Byron Jones there in the middle, but I don't see a whole lot. It was late. Sometimes hard to explain.
I think Claiborne grabbed Evans on the cut. It's tough to see. You're looking at everything in that play, but let's watch Claiborne. Outside receiver, left of your screen. Watch here, John. Just kind of yanked him back enough. 2 huge penalties on Claiborne, and it gives Tampa Bay a first down. Sims. And Sims inside the 30. Game break time. Let's check in with Kurt.
Another NFC South versus NFC East matchup. Washington hosting New Orleans, and look at Drew Brees looking up with Brandon Cooks. 60 yards on the score. Those two have connected twice today. It's all even at 14 apiece. In the last 6 quarters, Drew Brees 12 touchdown passes. Kevin, John, and Pam?
Yeah, and Kurt, he led the NFC with 63 yards today, and I feel like they found a way to do their offense without Jimmy Graham. It feels like they've done it, and now another penalty.
False start. Offense number 76. 5-yard penalty. Still second down.
And so look, that's Donovan Smith and his second time in this series with a pre-snap penalty for a false start, and it just can't happen. Lovie Smith has preached it. You coach it as hard as you can. At a certain point, it becomes critical for these players to get the message, or Lovie will start benching guys. I promise you.
They're averaging over 10 penalties a game. It's been the drive of penalties. Second down, 4-man rush. Winston feels pressure, steps up, and throws it to the far sideline. We've got Brandon Myers who makes the catch, and Myers down to about the 28. Going to pick up 6.
Jameis Winston, one of the things that that the Bucs like, and I like as well, he played in the pocket a lot in college. He threw the ball from the pocket in a traditional pro-style offense, so he has a very good feel for that pocket. Right there, you see him get pressure outside. He steps up, finds the outlet, and he gets some positive yards.
Dirk Cutter has done a real nice job working with all these young guys on this offense. 3rd and 6, blitz coming. It's picked up. Winston lets it fly. Almost intercepted by Brandon Carr.
Well, here's where you're seeing what Jameis has to still work on. We saw earlier on the penalty, the high miss. Those usually are interceptions. Late balls in the NFL usually are interceptions as well because the defensive backs are that fast. Brandon Carr undercuts it. Could have well had an interception there. Jameis Winston getting away with some errant throws here today.
Connor Barth has a 52-yard field goal. This one is going to be from 46 yards out. And it's hooking, and it is no good. Second miss on the year for Connor Barth, and a victory for Jason Garrett's crew after a couple of big penalties. Cowboys hold, and they've got the lead. 6-3 Cowboys after a weird drive by Tampa Bay. A couple huge penalties on Dallas. It ends up with Connor Barth hooking a field goal. And so that's where we stand. Christine Michael in at running back. Got him from Seattle. He's only had 19 snaps all year. He actually gets the ball and a handoff. That's a rare sight. And a decent run, gain of 4 on first down. So welcome you into the broadcast booth. John Lynch, and I'm Kevin Burkhardt. You know, Matt Castle came here in a trade a few weeks ago. This is his 4th start. That's a lot that he has had to do just to be on the field for this team.
Well, you forget these guys have lives as well.
Yeah.
And Matt and his wife Lauren just had their 4th child, so congratulations to them. But he said in the midst of this trade, his wife's 36 weeks pregnant. They've got 3 kids. He goes down to Dallas after he finds out he's traded. They're living in a hotel room. Then he finds out he's the starter. He can't find a coach to coach him because they're all putting game plans together. So a lot on Matt Castle's plate.
And then he zings that to Dez Bryant at a beauty of a pass. Tampa territory down to the 44, and it's a gain of 16.
But now he's in a new home. Things have settled down. They welcomed their 4th child, and now he's starting to throw footballs like that. He's a very capable backup. He came in the middle of the season. People are expecting him to be the savior. Tony Romo has been out. It wasn't working with Brandon Whedon. They brought him in. He's actually played well, minus those 3 interceptions in New York. Other than that, he's given him a chance to win.
The problem is 2 of those picks have gone back to the house for a touchdown, and that obviously hurts too. As McFadden back in, down to the 41. So Tony Romo will be back next week. Cowboys say broke his collarbone in week 2 against the Eagles. Cowboys won that game. You know, I think, John, I think over the last couple times that he's been out, Cowboy fans have really appreciated Tony Romo a lot more, though, and just how good he is.
Well, sometimes that's the best way, you know, to not be there, for people to finally realize how good they have it. And Tony Romo is sure reminding Cowboy fans what a valuable asset he is to the organization.
As well as Castle's played, Romo is one of the best in this league. 2nd down and 8. Tampa backs off the blitz. Coming Beasley. Good catch. It was behind him. And he made the catch. Should be enough for a 1st down with more on the coverage.
Well, that's a connection. That last week, Castle to Cole Beasley connected for 9 balls. Quan Alexander makes a tremendous break on that ball, but Castle throws on time. And when you throw on time, you can fit it in tight windows. Cole Beasley, a really nice job catching that a little bit behind him.
Now you hit it. For 2 weeks, Castle didn't get Beasley a ball. And it's all of a sudden, like last week, they got in sync. He put a career-high 9, career-high 2 touchdowns. Run it to McFadden, and he's going to lunge forward for a couple more on the tackle. He's been active today.
And Kevin, you start to see, you know, a lot of people say 2 and 6, they've got no chance. They're out of this. But particularly with this offense, you get Romo back, the best offensive lineman in football. Look at these weapons. You got Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, and a future Hall of Fame tight end in Jason Witten. This is an offense that's loaded. It should be productive, and it's starting to get that way.
Just get the play off. Blitz coming. Castle just going to throw it deep for Bryant. A little too far. Moore was on the coverage. He had to get rid of it.
Lovie Smith and this defense being much more aggressive than we've seen from him. This has been primarily a zone team. That's a matchup the Cowboys like, but it was pressure, quick pressure from Werner, the nickel cornerback, that made Castle get rid of it just a little bit quicker than he wanted to.
So Moore, been active today, should point out that Jude Adjei-Barima, who walked off the last series, is back out there too, number 38 for Tampa. At the cornerback. 3rd down 8. Coming to Witten, who needs a lot more than that. That's not going to be a first, but it will be a field goal try by Dan Bailey. Alteron Werner was there first on the tackle.
Well, it's a risky move, but I like the aggressiveness from Tampa Bay. Again, this is a team who came in with a lot of zone. Matt Castle, with all these weapons, would shred them up. The completion percentage has been way too high. They're a little more aggressive, making him get the ball out of his hands and frustrating Dez Bryant, who wants the ball.
Is he ever not frustrated, John?
He wants the ball.
He is competitive. 48-yard try for Bailey, and that one's no good. There's got to be some strong wind down there that we're not seeing. But now each kicker has missed a field goal, and Dez Bryant wants more answers. We'll try and find them when we come back.
Well, we saw Dez Bryant telling Matt Castle he's open. They're always open, but really not so. Quan Alexander undercuts that route. Matt Castle looks the other way wisely, and you know, it's something you deal with great receivers. They always think they're open. They say 7-Eleven, 24 hours a day they're open. And Matt Castle doing a nice job just calming Dez Bryant down. He's a competitive guy. He's a very talented receiver, and that's part of playing quarterback.
You talked about Quan Alexander. He is, boy, he can anticipate, huh?
He's some player. He really is. He sees things well, and then he finishes it once he sees it.
Fake the run, look out, blitz. Winston gets away from Mincy and then fires incomplete. Bucks have run the ball, but their pass game has been stagnant. Just 3 of 8 throwing the ball now.
Well, the Cowboys needed more pressure. That's what's been lacking. The turnovers are way down, and turnovers always kind of go hand in hand with pressure on the quarterback. That elevates the ball. It hasn't been there. It's better today.
They'll run it, and that time going nowhere. Meanwhile, game break time. Let's check in with Mike Hill.
Wild one between the Saints and the Skins. Kirk Cousins is going to find Matt Jones, and Matt Jones is going to do the rest. Weaving his way through the defense. 78 yards for the touchdown. Cousins with 3 touchdowns on the day already. Kevin, John, you like that?
Kirk Cousins likes that. I know that.
And Matt Jones can run now.
It's hard to figure out the Saints. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
3rd and 11. Winston has it blocked near side. He's got a completion, and that's a first down. There is Evans, and that was a well-thrown football. It's a gain of 14.
Well, 3rd and 11. That's a time where the pressure has to come, but good protection by this Buccaneers offensive line, and a really nice, accurate throw by Jameis Winston. You have to respect the speed of Mike Evans. Morris Claiborne does. His underneath coverage is not there, and Jameis Winston threads it in.
Looking Evans' way. They pump. They're going to go to him again. Great catch. Mike Evans, what an adjustment to haul it down inside the 30.
Well, there's not much question who Jameis Winston's to go to. Vincent Jackson's out. He sees this matchup. He likes it. And Mike Evans, who had 8 drops in the last 2 weeks, showing that he does indeed have nice hands.
And we get the 2-minute warning in Tampa Bay. The Bucks on the move. They trail at 6-3. Get apps, videos, and more at iTunes.com/NFL. Maybe you could even put your selfies up there. I'm not even sure. All right, so 2 minutes to go in the half. 6-3 Cowboys lead the Bucks, but Tampa has a nice drive going here after a couple big plays to Evans. It's a 1st and 10. Winston has time, going for Evans again, and it's incomplete, tipped away. They've just been attacking this matchup, Evans on Morris Claiborne.
And they better get Morris Claiborne some help because he was beat right there. You see, not really a special move, but he just runs right by Claiborne. It's an underthrown football by Jameis Winston, or that's a touchdown. And Mike Evans is just tearing up Morris Claiborne right now, and they need to get him some safety help over the top.
5 targets to Mike Evans. 2 of them have drawn penalties. He's got 3 catches, 42 yards. From the 26, 4-man rush going deep again, and going for Sims. Bobbled, incomplete. He had him. It was Hitchens on the coverage, and now a 3rd and 10.
That's really good coverage by Anthony Hitchens. Hitchens playing with a gimpy ankle, and Sims out of bounds prior. So even if he had caught it, but that's really nice coverage by Anthony Hitchens, who's playing with a gimpy ankle.
Cowboys linebackers banged up. Lee out with a concussion, and McClain and Hitchens both playing hurt today. 3rd and 10. Winston fires high, intercepted, and it's picked off by Jeff Heath. Out across the 20 to the 25, and a big mistake. After a nice drive, the Cowboys take over.
Well, Kevin, I said it earlier, your misses in this league can't be high because tips and overthrows lead to interceptions. Jameis Winston is high, interceptions the result.
First pick in 5 games for Winston. Cowboys football.
Well, Jameis Winston's been playing some great football. One of the things that scares you is he turned the ball over a lot in college. He had been fixing that of late. But again, I said when you miss, you can't miss high over the middle in particular because tips and overthrows become interceptions. And that was a high miss. It's so important for him to keep his feet underneath him. He has a tendency to overstride. That leads to ball sailing on him.
Morris Claiborne going to the locker room for the Cowboys early. Meanwhile, 1st and 10, all 3 timeouts, minute 35 to go in the half. Castle zings one to Dez Bryant, who's got a first down across the 35.
So that chirping works. You want the ball, go chirp at your quarterback, and they have a tendency to throw it.
There you go.
And Matt Castle finds Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant's happy for the rest of the half.
Well, there's only a minute 19 left in the half, Jack.
It's like a ball a minute.
Get your point. 4-man rush, a lot of time. Get it to McFadden. He'll juke his way across the 40, and he's out of bounds there. Stop the clock with a minute 6 to go in this first half. Meanwhile, for the Cowboys team, Jeff Heath, his 2nd career interception. But yeah, when you think about it, too, it's the 2nd interception all year by the Cowboys secondary. And they just haven't had any.
They haven't been there, and I think it all starts with the rush. I mean, interceptions happen because quarterbacks are under duress. Opposing quarterbacks haven't been under duress with the Cowboys. They need more pressure, and they're starting to get some here today.
Need about 20 more yards to have a realistic shot at a field goal here. A lot of time. Castle fires Bryant, and that's incomplete. And so a 3rd and 5, and the Bucs have all 3 timeouts too.
The Buccaneers playing their patented Tampa 2 defense, and he has double coverage there, kind of throwing it away right there was Matt Castle.
Injured player for the Bucs. It's George Johnson, the defensive end, trying to get up and walk and then sat back down. George Johnson being helped off the field. He's had 4 tackles today for the Bucs, and because of that, Tampa had to use their first timeout. So this is still, though, important. 3rd and 5. Obviously, the Cowboys trying to score for the half, but if not, Bucs trying to put something together here. Off the blitz. Castle still in trouble. Steps up, throws complete to Witten, and a good tackle. He stopped short of the first down. Alteron Werner, I believe, was there, and now timeout on the field. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
Coming up at halftime, Johnny Football gets another start for the Browns in Pittsburgh. The Eagles host the Dolphins and hope to keep pace in the NFC East. We've got all that and a lot more, so stick around.
How's that, TB? No, that's not good. America wants more of me. You should know that by now, Mark.
I agree, Terry, by the way.
Terry's like one of those receivers, those diva receivers. They want the ball. Terry wants more of Terry.
He's going to get it, John, in 51 seconds. So will all the guys. Jimmy, Michael, and Howie and Kurt, halftime show coming up. So Tampa calls their 2nd timeout. Dallas will punt after Witten stops short. Rainey, fair catch, makes the catch of the 15. So 44 seconds left and 1 timeout. I wonder, with the mistakes that have happened, does Lovie Smith try to press here, or does he just take it to halftime?
Well, you know, we open with they think they found their franchise quarterback. This is a test, because do you trust your quarterback to protect the football right after that interception? I think Lovie Smith has a lot of trust in Jameis Winston, and I think you got to play to win. And so I think you attack with Jameis Winston. You remind them, let's be smart. If we don't get it, we go into half at 6-3.
So 1 timeout from their own 15 here. Just going to run it with Sims. Gets a couple blocks. And now time is called. Well, we came in talking a number of storylines, but for the Bucs who have the ball right now, it was the play of Jameis Winston, and we asked the question, is he the franchise quarterback? But he's only played 8 games, so you're going to see some of these growing pains.
Well, there's been a lot of great signals, particularly of late, but there's also a ton of room for growth. The Buccaneers know that. Dirk Cutter said he's got a ton of opportunities to get better in areas, and one of them is accuracy. It is absolutely essential in this league. You look at the top quarterbacks, they're definitely accurate, and Jameis at times it's a little loose, and so he's got to work on those fundamentals, get a little more compact in everything, his feet, get his motion a little more compact, and that will lead to better accuracy.
Evan Smith, the right guard today, out of the game for Tampa. Meanwhile, we also haven't seen Doug Martin in a while, John. Don't have a report on him just yet. Sims has been in there the last couple series of running back. Here they're just going to throw it to Cameron Brate, the tight end. He's got a first down. They knocked out of bounds, which will stop the clock with 28 seconds to go.
Kevin, that Evan Smith being down, remember he's playing in the place of Ali Marpet, the rookie who was hurt last week, and so now it's Pamphile, Kevin Pamphile, who comes in, who's played guard and started at guard, but they're getting thin in numbers at that offensive line.
And Marpet they love out of Hobart College. They thought he's had a great year. I know you agreed watching the film. 28 seconds to go. Winston, throw over the middle. It's nearly intercepted. Tyler Patton had his hands on it, bobbled, and couldn't make the play.
Well, throwing the football, you've got to be on time, and look at the eyes of Jameis Winston staring in. That's all Tyler Patman's looking at are those eyes. He reads it should have had an interception, and if he does have that interception, it might well go to the house. Jameis Winston just a little bit loose and showing that he is still a rookie.
So now 23 seconds to go. No timeouts. Winston going to fire, and he's got a completion. It's Evans trying to get out of bounds. He won't do it. Clock is running. They have time to spike it here. 12 seconds. At least spike it and throw a Hail Mary. And now penalty flag with 6 seconds to go. Here's Bill Vinovich.
I wouldn't be surprised if they get Byron Jones. Byron Jones kind of kicked that ball away. A little delay of game as the referee was trying to, the official was trying to spot the football.
Delay of game, defense, number 31. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
It's a good call, John. It was on Byron Jones, but 5 seconds left as we look what happened.
Well, you got to be subtle if you're trying to do these things, and this was anything but subtle. He gives that little right, playing the other football, and the official's right on top of it.
And so now it's Hail Mary time. You don't have time to run a quick play and try a long field goal without a timeout. So Cowboys going to line everybody back. What's going on here? Jason Garrett looks like he's having a conversation. Three-man rush, but pressure. Winston in trouble, and he gets away. Down he goes. Now he's officially going to be dropped for a sack. DeMarcus Lawrence is the man that got there, and that will end the half. So a battle of field goals here in Tampa Bay. Winston had pressure, got away initially, and then Lawrence kind of stayed on him with some help. And he goes down to end the half. Field goal kickers so far, with the Cowboys up 6-3 on these Bucs. Each team has missed a field goal here as well. All right, halftime show coming up with Kurt and the fellas. 6-3 Cowboys at the break from Tampa Bay. Today's excitement is brought to you by Nissan. And you can see there's been some hard hitting, there's been some big plays, and then there's been some field goals. And that's where we are. That was today's excitement brought to you by Nissan at 6-3 Cowboys as we start this third quarter. And we welcome you inside the booth. Along with John Lynch, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. And Well, the one thing about Tampa that struck me watching that second quarter, yeah, they were going to the air more, but Doug Martin, who had a good first quarter, only one touch, and we just found out it's not a health thing. He's fine.
No, they like both backs, but I tell you, when a guy gets in a rhythm, and Doug Martin was in that rhythm, you got to keep riding him. And I think you got to see more of Doug Martin. And then Mike Evans was he was starting to take it to Morris Claiborne or whoever's covering him. So I would feed him. Sometimes you just simplify it. And for the Dallas Cowboys, the one thing that's encouraging, the pass rush is starting to come alive for them.
Rainey bobbles, he'll corral it. And the Bucs will start this half on their own 20-yard line. You know, the one thing we saw at the end of the half, remember the play Byron Jones, he got a delay game, tried to kick the ball there. 5 seconds left, and Winston ended up getting sacked. We checked with Mike Pereira, and because of the penalty, they should have added time back on the clock. So we looked at it. There should have been 14 seconds on the clock. Now, I don't know if Tampa would have done anything. They would have had to get a quick play and get out of bounds and kick a long field goal, but they got gypped out of time. That's the bottom line.
I think they did, and otherwise everybody would do that.
Well, that's water under the bridge now as they'll throw it. Evans, turnaround move, and he's going to pick up 5 yards on first down. Brandon Carr on Evans on that play.
You know, provided he catches it, Mike Evans. He's been struggling to catch it. He's a tough match for anyone. He's very reminiscent to me of Terrell Owens, the former Cowboy, a physical, strong, tough and fast wide receiver. Mike Evans tough to deal with on one-on-one coverage.
They'll run the ball. And that time it is Martin. Talk about him getting back involved. So he had the first quarter, Doug Martin, where he had 6 carries for 37 yards. That's his second carry since then. And a third down coming up for Tampa.
And, you know, Kevin, one of the things that has made it even tougher for Jameis Winston, really for a while, he hasn't had Vincent Jackson or Austin Seferian-Jenkins, 2 of his top 3 targets. And so he's throwing to free agent rookie wide receivers and Adam Humphries and Dante Day, other than Mike Evans.
And we get a flag.
False start. Offense number 76. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
That's the third penalty on the Buccaneers rookie left tackle.
He's got the hat trick, and not something that Lovie Smith is going to be happy. He's played well as a rookie. He's had his rookie struggles, but again, that just goes to basic football. Hold your water, sit in, wait till the ball snapped. You should know the count.
Third down and 8. Blitz coming. Winston in trouble. Jacked. And it's incomplete, I believe, but there's no whistle. Is that ball live? John, on the field, they did not blow the whistle. So this should be a fumble, but let's see the replay here, which obviously they'll look at.
It's Brandon Carr who comes on the corner blitz.
Recovered by Dallas.
So Carr on the cornerback blitz and the hit, ruled a fumble, recovered by Dallas. Now was the arm moving forward?
The arm was moving forward. I think that will be overturned. You see Jameis Winston at the end with the arm coming forward. Nice play by Brandon Carr.
Review coming. And we're going to keep it here while they take a look at this. So they look at every replay here. And that's what I was waiting for on the field. I was trying to see if they did indeed blow the whistle. They never did. Cowboys got it. And now we watch and we look like they do back in New York. We'll come back with the answer. Looks like he was going forward.
Today's game is sponsored by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By Burger King, introducing new Buffalo chicken fries, a better way to Buffalo. By Miller Lite, back in its original bottle, but not for long. It's Miller time. And by the all-new LG V10, capture the in-between moments.
They're reviewing this fumble. Let's bring in Mike Pereira from LA. Mike, what do you got?
Well, I know you like to stay with the call on the field, but to me here, the arm is going forward, the hand moving forward with control of the ball. I think it's an incomplete pass. Sometimes the referees they have to look at the contact on the quarterback, which you see the hand and arm around the neck area, and you lose focus of the ball. But to me, this is pretty much a forward pass, and they're going to have to reset the clock. Should go to 4th and 8 if they 4th down and 8 yards to go if they reverse it.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field has changed. It's an incomplete pass. It'll be 4th and 8 at the 22-yard line. Please reset the game clock to 13 minutes and 33 seconds.
Good call, Mike Pereira. Thank you. Bill Vinovich tells us it is changed, and the teams knew it because Cowboys already had their punt return team out there on the field. So it is changed, and the Buccaneers dodge a bullet. Lucky Whitehead back to return the punts. He had a big punt return, 79 yards last week. He also tried to catch one on the 1. That didn't go over too well. So Beasley returned one earlier. Now they give Lucky Whitehead, some room. Shum gets off the punt. Good high kick. And Whitehead has no choice. It takes him right out of bounds around the 29-yard line. Tomorrow we've got Cops on the Edge, Evil Alliances, and an army of assassins. This ain't no back alley throwdown, boys and girls. This is Gotham, Rise of the Villains. And it's all new tomorrow right here on Fox. Cowboys take a look at what they've done. Castle's throwing the ball well today. A couple of those incompletions, probably on purpose too. 4 catches, 41 yards for Dez Bryant. Here they started out from their own 29. Castle, a lot of time. Now maneuvering away, and now he's going to go down. He had all day to find someone, but couldn't, and William Goldson is going to take him down for the sack.
Well, nice changeup by this Buccaneer defense. Early on, we saw so much man-to-man. Here that looks like man-to-man, but they're really playing a zone. He sends them across, droppers underneath, and Matt Castle really had nowhere to throw. They fooled Matt Castle and the Dallas Cowboys with that zone call.
Second down and 11. Run of McFadden. Cuts back across the grain and gets to the 30. He's going to pick up 3 in the third long. John, you know, this secondary for Tampa Bay is fascinating because last week Lovie Smith was so annoyed with what he saw. He said, that's it. I'm going to 5th and 6 on the depth chart. There's Sterling Moore. And then he also brought in Jude Ajay-Barima, number 38, a rookie from Bowling Green. And you know what? They may have something here with these guys.
Well, they're certainly calling a much more aggressive game. And Lovie lamented to us how tough it is to play without good cornerback play. You end up playing a bunch of zone because you don't trust your corners. Today, they're trusting their corners, and it's paying dividends.
Dez Bryant against Moore, top of your screen. Bryant looking elsewhere for Gavin Escobar, the tight end, right down the middle, and he's in a Buccaneer territory. It's a gain of 22.
And that's a well-thrown football. On time, a strike by Matt Castle. He identifies where the hole in that zone, cover 2, in that void right there. You got to throw it on time, though, because here comes 30, Bradley McDougald. That's just a really well-thrown football in anticipation by Matt Castle.
They all jumped at Witten in front of him, and why wouldn't you? And they go up top to Escobar. So that gets a first down for Dallas at the 48 of Tampa Bay. The I formation here, and there's the draw. McFadden up the middle, not much. McDougald was there, so was Levante David. We talked earlier about stars having to play like stars for this Tampa team, and really, you look at David, 54, and McCoy, because those two guys, a young team, but they gave those guys big money contracts.
And they earned those contracts. They have been extraordinary players, but they've both had kind of quiet years. It's not as if they're playing bad, but they aren't playing like great franchise cornerstone players. They both know it, and they're trying to fix it, but you can't fix it if you're on the sideline. Gerald McCoy's there right now.
David, meanwhile, has 8 tackles to lead the Bucs. 2nd and 10. They're going to throw it to Bryant, who dropped it. That was right there, but he just couldn't hang on. It was Ajay-Barima on the coverage, but that was all Dez.
Another well-thrown football. by Matt Castle. You don't see Des Bryant drop many of these. Remember, Des Bryant missed all the weeks with the foot. He had to have foot surgery, and that's just a ball that you have to catch.
Cowboys are 4 of 9 on 3rd down today. This a 3rd and 10. Blitz. Castle tipped it. It's dropped. That had interception, maybe even more. But Quan Alexander, who has just been awesome, can't make that play.
And this has been something consistent. They're playing this man-to-man, but they're giving the cornerback underneath help with Quan Alexander. Wherever Des Bryant is, they're flashing him underneath. Great job by Levante David getting there. Quan Alexander had it in his hands. And Kevin, that's a touchdown for Quan Alexander if he just sees it in.
Starting to see why these teams are under 500, John. You know, it's just the mistakes. So they'll punt it away. Rainey, fair catch at the 15. 6-3, Cowboys holding on to a 3-point lead. Hang on, there's a flag, far side of the field.
During the kick. Holding. Receiving team number 91. After this is the goal. Dallas keeps the ball. First down. Timeout.
Tampa football right around the 8-yard line. They're down 3, 10-13 to go in the 3rd. 6-3 Cowboys lead the Bucs. 10-13 to go in 3rd quarter. But Tampa pinned deep here. They're on their own 8-yard line after a Cowboys punt and then a penalty on that punt. They got a long way to go. Got Doug Martin in the backfield to start it off. And they'll run it. And Martin goes nowhere. Hitchens played it well. Let's check in with Pam Oliver. Pam?
Well, Kevin, I talked to both coaches at halftime. First, Jason Garrett. Now, he is happy how his group is responding on offense. They're at least moving the ball, but when they get into that fringe area, that's when they have the problems. Defensively, they may go with a little more zone to get Jameis Winston in better control. As for Tampa, Lovie Smith told me that he needs to be careful with the ball more. He is doing those batted passes that they don't want to do. Oh, and we have a little mistake here.
That's Evans, Pam, on the catch, and they're going to say he was down. He almost broke that all the way. But reaching forward, he was down. It was Wilcox on the coverage.
You talk about keeping it simple. If I'm Dirk Cutter right now, I'm running Doug Martin and I'm throwing to this guy because no one can cover him. When they're throwing to him, it's either in and up in big completions like that or penalties. Mike Evans having a nice day.
Mike Evans is the only wide receiver with a catch for Tampa. He's got 6 for 84. There's fullbacks and tight ends elsewhere. Pitch to Martin. Tries to get the edge and cuts it upfield out to the 33. So Martin's got a 4-yard gain.
Kevin, I think you get to this level, and sometimes we have, guys in roles, analytics, director of analytics, that came up this week with Dirk Cutter. But sometimes you just got to keep it simple. And when Doug Martin's running well and Mike Evans is tearing up their secondary, keep feeding them.
Yeah. It's working. Evans, bottom of your screen. He's going to be matched up against Brandon Carr when we get to that shot. There you go. Winston, other side to Martin, makes a catch. What a tackle. Byron Jones on the tackle. Mike Hill on the game break for us. Mike.
All right, Kev, Lions trying to win at Green Bay for the first time since '91. Opening kickoff, second half. Amir Abdullah takes it 5 yards deep inside his own end zone, and he's gone all the way down inside the 1-yard line. Brandon Pettigrew would later score on a 2-yard score from Matthew Stafford. Extra point no good. 9-3 Lions in the 3rd.
Green Bay hasn't lost 3 games in a row in a really long time.
Remember early on they were saying no Jordy Nelson, no problem. Well, they're missing Jordy Nelson about now.
3rd down. Winston fires near side. Humphreys, good catch. And he's got it for a first down. First wide receiver other than Evans to come through, and Humphreys does on 3rd.
Well, Adam Humphreys is a rookie from Clemson, an undrafted free agent, and of late, out of necessity, because he doesn't have his other top targets, Jameis Winston has really started to rely on him. He's got some natural slot characteristics, those classic slot characteristics, and he's come up big for the Bucs.
He had 5 catches against the Giants last week. Ooh, vicious hit inside. It was Hitchens with the stick initially on Martin.
Kevin, and Sean Lee's out, but Anthony Hitchens has played a nice game. We've seen him in coverage. We've seen him in run support. Here he is right here, not lined up, but he made up for it. He comes and fills hard. This is a guy who didn't practice until Friday, Anthony Hitchens, with that ankle.
Yeah, he came off wincing on that play. 2nd down and 9. Charles Sims in the game, a running back now. Four-man rush pressure. Winston lost it for Sims. Incomplete. Sims couldn't beat his man. It was Andrew Gatchkar, 5th-year man out of Missouri.
And a really nice job. I see what Jameis Winston's thinking. Hitchens goes off. Let's attack the new guy who just came in as special teams player in Gatchkar, but Gatchkar up to the task. He runs through the traffic underneath. That's textbook in covering that type of route. They try to pick him. He doesn't allow for the pick. Really nice job by Gatchkar.
8th play of the drive, but a 3rd down and 9. Winston guns it, dropped by Evans. Oh man, he's had 9 drops the last 2 weeks. As great as he's been catching the big play, you got to make that play.
And he's been putting up big numbers, and you just think if he just caught the ball, what it could be. Yes, there's traffic, but you're an NFL receiver. You got to catch the ball. It's in his head, the eyes, just basic fundamentals. You got to bring your eyes all the way to the ball. He doesn't do it, and when you're struggling with something like that, it's got to go back to fundamentals. He's fighting it.
Yeah, it's crazy because he's made monster plays, but it's 10 drops in the last 3 weeks. Dirk Cutter, their offensive coordinator, told us, I think it was in his head last week, and that's a problem. So instead of a 1st down on a big play, it's a punt. Beasley back to return this one, and he gets tackled immediately. Russell Shepard with a good special teams play. So it's still a 3-point game. Bucs waste an opportunity. Cowboys football.
Today's game is sponsored by Nissan. Innovation that excites.
In honor of Veterans Day, for every point scored during the NFL's 32 Salute to Service games, the league will donate $1,000 to its nonprofit partners, the Pat Tillman Foundation, USO, and Wounded Warrior Project. To join the salute and learn more, visit NFL.com/salute. And we obviously thank all of the veterans, past and present, for what they do for us.
Second down, absolutely.
1st and 10 for Dallas. And they're going to run the football, not much to McFadden. You go back to that last drop, John, and Evans talked about his drop problems, but now the last 2 weeks, 3 drops on 3rd down, make it worse.
Well, Kevin, we were talking during the break. I mean, what you're seeing is 2 teams. Everyone says it's Tony Romo. Well, what about Des Bryant dropping that ball? You're seeing a 2-6 team and a 3-5 team, and you're seeing evidence right in front of our face as to why they're there. They're not making the big plays when presented, and that's what this league's about, is making the plays when you have the opportunity.
Second down and 7. Blitz is coming. Castle lets it fly, and he's got a completion. It's Terrence Williams. That's his first catch of the day. He's been quiet, but that one's going to come through for 17 and a 1st down.
He certainly has been quiet, but this is another one of the weapons that Matt Castle and this offense has at their disposal. You see him look over, kind of scanning the coverage. And what I like about Matt Castle right now is he's throwing on time. He's anticipating throws, and he's throwing them very accurately, getting into a nice rhythm.
Castle 14 of 20, 140 yards. The quarterback has not been the issue for Dallas today. To throw it. A lot of time on the play action, and Witten makes a good catch right around midfield for Jason Witten. That'll be a gain of 5. It's pretty amazing in 13 years of playing football at the level that Jason Witten has, John. First of all, you look at accolades. He's 8 away from 1,000 catches, which would be 10th on the all-time list. But maybe more impressively, he's missed 1 game in 13 years.
Well, Herm Edwards, a great friend of mine, an old coach, he used to tell us all the time, your best ability is availability. And Jason Witten has certainly been available, not only available, but when he has been, he's been extraordinary.
Jerome McFadden shy of the first, so a 3rd and short is coming up now for Dallas.
This is where, Kevin, if you're Matt Castle, I keep going, Tony Romo looks on. You got a lot of great weapons. You got Des Bryant, one of the premier receivers in football. We just saw Terrence Williams. Cole Beasley's coming off a 9-catch day. We talked about Jason Witten, future Hall of Famer. So weapons all over the field. We'll see who Matt Castle chooses to go to.
Third and 3. Pressure. Castle in trouble. Steps away. Still on his feet. Now he's going to run, and we get a flag. He's shy of the first. But there's a penalty right around Tyron Smith. And it looks like it's going to be on him.
Holding. Offense number 77. Penalties decline. Result of the play. 4th down.
That's a big stop by Tampa, and Lovie Smith staying aggressive. You see them bring 5. Matt Castle's first read not there. He eludes Lavonte David, but here comes the rest of the rush. The aggressiveness paying off, and the corners holding up in the back end.
Stars being stars, Lavonte David's played well today.
He sure has.
And so another punt. Jones. High kick. Rainey, another fair catch. Oh, look at the bounce. Played perfectly. Wilcox was there. And the Bucs will have a long way to go with 2:52 to go in the 3rd. 6-3 still Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys special teams on the punting unit, no return yards, Chris Jones, and that's the man that leads it, Rich Bisaccia, and he is one of the better coaches in this league.
Well, he's being discussed around college football, pro football. He's been mentioned for many of these head coaching jobs, and someone would be wise to hire that man. I've played for him, tremendous leader of men.
Here is Doug Martin, and he hasn't been able to get it going since that good first quarter. So in today's game, we have 7 punts, 8 drops, 2 missed field goals, and a partridge in a pear tree, John.
And it all translates to ugly. I mean, that's what it's been. You've seen some nice football from both sides, but that's just what's holding these teams back right now, is the missed opportunities and hurting themselves.
Winston to throw it far side, and caught and knocked away by Evans. Brandon Carr, who's been on Evans in this second half with Claiborne going out with the injury at the end of the first.
And look, that's not a drop. That's a nice play by Brandon Carr. You see the right hand come down, but it's a ball that I promise you Mike Evans expects himself to make. It's almost painful watching this, Kevin, because it's like that old Steve Sachs deal where something simple is becoming very tough because it's getting deep in that head.
Third down and 7. 4-man rush. Winston guns it near side, and there's Myers, the tight end, and he holds on for a much-needed first down.
Brandon Myers, they're kind of tight end by committee without Safarian Jenkins, and Brandon Myers is a guy who's been productive in this league, runs a nice route, and that's a good ball on time by Jameis Winston.
Myers' second catch today, and that give him a little breathing room anyway. Move it out to the 19. Here's Martin. And there's just nothing there. Cowboys really plugging up this offensive line. Martin maybe a yard.
Now, Kevin, one of the things, you know, an incredibly versatile and valuable player for the Cowboys right now is this Byron Jones. Morris Claiborne goes out with a hamstring, and I think it's actually helped him because Byron Jones, he can play safety. That's what they think he's going to be long term. He's played nickel. Now he's playing corner, and he's holding up quite well. This is they found a gem from the University of Connecticut in the first round. A big-time player, I think, for years to come.
On second, Litz is picked up. Winston going far side of the field, and what a catch that is. So you have the drops, but then you have something like that, and he makes a tremendous play.
Well, I think the thing with Mike Evans is you just have to make it difficult. You got to have someone blanketing him. You got to have hands all over him, and then he'll catch it. It's the easy ones that he's fighting. But I like that Jameis Winston keeps going back to him. I'm going to continue to feed you. And part of the reason is he doesn't have a whole lot else right now. Does Jameis Winston at his disposal?
I think too, John. I mean, you figure Evans in his second year, Winston's a rookie. I mean, they hope that's a connection that is here for a while.
Sometimes you have to work through these problems and just keep targeting him and hope he can work his way out.
Meanwhile, he's got his 7th career 100-yard game with that catch. Pressure. Winston stands it and fires. The catch by Humphries. And he's into Dallas territory, down to the 45, a 19-yard gain. I'll tell you one thing, Winston's not afraid to take a hit.
That's a great point. That was big-time courage. Rolando McClain, a big-time force coming right down the pipe. Jameis Winston stands in there and delivers.
Got him. Hang on 1 second. We had a penalty. Nope, we're going to go to the quarter. That'll be the quarter. End of 3. Bucks on the move, down 3. We start the 4th quarter in Tampa Bay. Cowboys 6, Buccaneers 3. But Tampa has a nice drive going here. They started this at their own 4. And it's a 1st and 10 at the Cowboy 45.
Ready. Blue way.
This is Charles Sims going to get the ball. And the run game just completely shut down in this second half by the Cowboys. Earlier on this drive, you got to show this, John. This is fun.
Well, earlier on this drive, Gosder Cherilus and DeMarcus Lawrence, they're having a nice battle. And then Gosder Cherilus is going to try to dig into DeMarcus Lawrence. He pushes him, and Cherilus does his best Vlade Divac. That's called a flop, folks. And Bill Benovich, the big-time referee, all over it. He said, come on, Gosder. You got to do better than that.
Bill is a basketball official, too. He's seen good flops. That was great.
Get you fined in the NBA.
Second down. Winston going deep and overthrowing. He was looking for Shepard. And now a 3rd and 12.
Byron Jones all over the coverage. He's a guy, you talk about versatility. I can't tell you how tough it is as a rookie to come in and play free safety, strong safety, nickel, and corner. Rod Marinelli, the defensive coordinator, told me last night, I don't want to play him all over, but he's so valuable to us. We'd like him to hone in on one spot, but he's just so good. We're using him where we need to.
He's such an athlete. At the combine, he set a world record for broad jump. Winston in trouble. Rolling, throwing, completion, it drops. Stocker was the guy, not normally a receiving tight end, but Tyler Patman was there to make sure he didn't hold on, and we've got a punt coming.
Well, good pressure, first of all, by Greg Hardy. And that's a ball, again, the drops continue. You got to bring that football in, but Patman doing a nice job attacking the football and getting it out.
So Beasley back to return. He had a 22-yard punt return in the first quarter, which helped the Cowboys on the drive to a field goal. Shum will punt it away. Beasley's going to let it go, and it's going to be downed inside the 10. Cowboys football up 3 in the 4th. Cowboys' problem is they have not finished these games on their 6-game losing streak. Other than the Patriot game in the 4th quarter, look, they've tied or led in all of these contests that they've lost. Why? They haven't taken the ball away, or they haven't had a sack in the 4th quarter or overtime, so that's an issue. And then they're getting shredded defensively. Quarterback play hasn't been up to par in that quarter. It's everything. They are not finishing games, but it's been a play or two for them. And they're in the same position again, up by 3. And now the Bucs fans getting into it here with 13:57 to go. They start from their own 7. Trying to get McFadden going. He's been quiet all day. Breaks a couple tackles. And a lot of work for 3 yards.
Kevin, he just missed the tackle there, but I really like this Quan Alexander. He's all over the field. There's players that can see it. There's other players who don't see it, but but they find it, and he does it all. He sees it very well, and then he knows how to go get it. Quan Alexander right here attacking. He's just a force all over the field. Yes, he should have made the tackle, but he's all over the place.
Cowboys go empty set. Des Bryant bottom of your screen. He's been matched up with Sterling Moore most of the day, and Bryant's been quiet. 4 catches, 41 yards. They're going to go to him, and Bryant ran the fly. Castle threw it underneath, and now a late flag back by the quarterback.
Personal foul. Unnecessary roughness. Roughing the passer. Defense number 90, late hit. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
That's Henry Melton, and he's typically a defensive tackle. They're playing him some at end to try to generate some rush. He's got a free rush, and it's late. You can't do it. Today's football, you can't do it. 5 years ago, 10 years ago would have been okay. You can't do it in today's football.
They had 2 personal fouls last week against the Giants, and one of them, Akeem Spence, essentially ended the game. Tampa was trying to come back, and you can't have it. He backed up inside the 10. That's what Lovie Smith was talking about. He likes the trend of this team, but there's so many bad mistakes. And now the Cowboys with a big first down. Room 2 from the 25. Castle zips one far side of the field, and it's the first catch of the day for Devin Street. And Street has enough to move the chains.
This Dallas offensive line really doing a nice job keeping Matt Castle clean throughout the day. Gerald McCoy, who we talked about struggling coming in, he's going up against 2 of the better guards in football. Zach Martin, in my mind, the best. Right there, La'el Collins, the other guy, a rookie, but he's got a potential to be one of the best.
McFadden looking for room, and again tripped up quickly. Nice tackle by McDougal. Game break. Let's check in with Kurt.
Kirk Cousins having a career day for Washington. This touchdown pass to Jordan Reed is 4th of the day. First time he's ever done that. Washington in firm control going into the 4th quarter. 37-14 on top of the Saints. Kevin, John, and Pam.
You know, we did the Washington-New England game, and even though New England controlled that game, we both thought that Washington they're not bad. They're right there.
And Cousins is getting better each and every week, starting to assert himself. I think it also tells you just how good New England is.
Also tells you this NFC East is wide open, but the Cowboys need this win. Castle going to Des Bryant, and he's tackled quickly. He's going to be shy of a first down. He's up at the 39. Chris Conti makes the play. And yeah, the Cowboys are in it, John. Obviously, if they win, you can't lose 7 in a row. Even though the Giants and Philly and Washington are all kind of mishmash around 500, you cannot expect to lose this game. And Tony Romo is going to come back, and they're going to win every game.
You're right. And Kevin, this is what it is. Jason Garrett said, put simply, we haven't made the plays in the critical moments of the game. Here is a critical moment right here, 3rd and 6.
Castle going deep, far side, one-handed, no, incomplete. I think he would have been out of bounds anyway with Terrence Williams, and the Tampa defense holds.
Well, again, we've chronicled it throughout the game. Aggressive defense by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're pressed man-to-man all over against all these weapons, and Matt Castle can't connect with Terrence Williams.
Now, Chris Jones has done a good job punting today. 4 punts, no return yards for the Bucs. Jones. Another high, booming punt. Rainey drops it, fumbles it, gonna pick it up, and he's in trouble, and he's buried. Another great punt by Chris Jones. Rainey dropped it, didn't help his cause. 53-yard punt, good hang time, and the Bucs down 3. Have a long way to go in Tampa.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Cialis, by McDonald's, teaming up with the NFL like never before, and by Volkswagen. Get a great deal during the Volkswagen Sign Then Drive event.
That's the iron statue version of John Lynch. It's actually great in the Tampa facility. They have all your guys here from that Super Bowl winning team. It's a great, cool little statue farm there. Statue farm, I think that's probably not the right word. You get the idea. 6-3 Cowboys. Bucks have it 1st and 10, and they're backed up. And they're going to give it to Martin. The notorious Conor McGregor has taken over this season of The Ultimate Fighter.
They call me an instigator.
What the?
A troublemaker. A wild card and a rebel.
Don't get smacked like a...
So don't miss an all-new Ultimate Fighter Wednesdays only on FS1.
Oh, Ronda Rousey going down.
Can you believe that one?
Wow.
2nd and 8 for Winston and company. Evans in motion. He's got 7 catches for 100 yards. Winston, you can bet he's looking for him again, but he goes underneath this time. There's Martin. Good plant in the ground, and he's upfield for a 1st down. Out to the 20 for Doug Martin.
Well, Doug Martin I really commend because he's not a natural catcher of the football. He kind of fights it, but he's worked at it, and he's gotten much better. And there you see he's a valuable guy because with the ball in his hands, he makes great things happen. A little play action, he sneaks his way through. Jameis throws a nice catchable ball. He puts on the brakes and finds the 1st down.
Injured Cowboy, meanwhile. Jack Crawford is down.
Doug, could you replace your divots, please?
I think he has to. Injury timeout for Crawford. Greg Hardy going at it with fans and then with Winston here after that last play. And he just can't stay out of it. I mean, you know, Cowboys gave him a 2nd chance. He committed a heinous crime laying his hands on a woman. And look, the Cowboys, they gave him a chance. Jason Garrett told us we laid out the expectations. But he keeps putting himself in the middle of it. More from Garrett on that after this 1st down. Winston on the blitz. Set up a screen. They got some room. Doug Martin, 1st down and more. They caught him in the blitz, and it worked perfectly for Martin with a big gain of 25.
Well, Dirk Cutter with the perfect call at the perfect time. They invite the blitz. Doug Martin slips out, and it's nothing but green grass. Good job by Joe Hawley, the center, getting something on Hitchens, but then another broken tackle, another couple broken tackles for Doug Martin. Those guys that are 5'9" and 220 pounds, believe me, they're hard to tackle.
So they'll give it to him on the run. Martin dancing in trouble. Flags fly. That goes nowhere. DeMarcus Lawrence was there. So we'll take a look at this call from Bill Vinovich and company.
Holding. Offense number 78. 10-yard penalty. Repeat 1st down.
So to finish the thought on Greg Hardy, Jason Garrett told us yesterday, he said, hey, you know, he sat the team down. He said, Greg Hardy really needs to understand there's no room for Greg Hardy to tweak, John. And I guess my question for you would be, as a member on that team, how is it not a distraction?
Well, first of all, the notion that their owner said, Jerry Jones, who I like and respect, that he's a leader of this team. You got problems if that's a leader of your team. He's a very good football player. I'll give him that. He's been quiet today. But that during the halftime inciting the crowd, when you've done what you've done, just be quiet, go about your job. Stop acting like a clown.
1st and 20. Winston over the middle. Caught! Evans took it away and still going. Boy, he had the drops earlier, but a couple of big plays, and that one puts Tampa at the Dallas 40. It's a gain of 26.
Now, one thing you notice about Jameis Winston, he tends to get better in the 2nd half, in the 4th quarter. That's a tight throw, but he does it with authority. He does it early, and that's Jameis Winston. And he's the guy we watched in college kind of will his team, put teams on his shoulders with those kind of throws. That's a big-time throw by the 1st pick in the draft. And that's why they think they have a franchise quarterback on their hands.
That's a career-high 8th catch for Evans. 126 yards and a 1st and 10 on the boot. Jones coming on the blitz. Winston comes near side. Sims with the move, tripped up, down to the 32. And the Bucs have some momentum on offense.
Kevin, you talk about Mike Evans, his 8th catch. You just think what could be. I mean, last week he would have had 250 yards. He put up huge numbers versus the New York Giants and had 5 drops. So if he just starts to connect, they've got a big-time connection.
Oh, that's
Winston to Evans.
That's the thing. And even Dirk Cutter said, yeah, what would he have had, 250? Look, they think this guy can be great. And that's where he's headed right now. He's been a monster today. Still Cowboys down 3. They're going to run it. Martin, 1st down. Doug Martin has a first down to the 26. 7:10 to go. Bucks down by 3 on the move.
Well, we've talked a lot about it at the beginning of this quarter. The Cowboys have been outstanding defensively today. They've kept there's Rod Marinelli, the leader, but you got to play your best ball when it matters most. And in the fourth quarter, they haven't been good, and that's what Rod Marinelli's trying to change. There's Vincent Jackson, the #1 wide receiver coming into the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the sideline.
Pitch out Martin. Good moves, Doug Martin, making people miss. I thought he was going to lose yards on that play. He only got 3, but that was a hard-earned 3 yards.
Kevin, you can see, as well as they've played defensively, where they miss Sean Lee. He's such a dynamic player when he's in there. Those type of tosses, Sean Lee snuffs those out. You can't run side to side on the Dallas Cowboys with Sean Lee in there. They're missing his presence. They're missing his play.
Mike Evans, bottom of your screen, matched up against Brandon Carr. On second down. Oh, incomplete. No, it's picked off. It is Heath again. He threw behind Humphries, and Jeff Heath, who had 2 career interceptions coming in, has 2 today and none bigger than that.
Well, the throw is behind him. Tip balls in the NFL turn into interceptions. Jeff Heath with his second of the day.
Cowboys get it back.
Today's game is sponsored by Kay Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K.
Well, it's a learning process for Jameis Winston. And you look at the window in between Hitchens and Patman that he tried to fit it in. You can't fit it in right there. He was in a rhythm. He was getting hot, and he was feeling it. But you got to have some discretion right here. That's behind Humphries. And again, Jeff Heath, just the beneficiary of a tip ball. Jameis Winston was really playing well.
Yeah.
Just a bad decision and a bad throw.
Well, they're looking at it to make sure Heath caught it cleanly. You know, he came in the last 4 games, no turnovers, and he's shown you flashes today. But, yeah, there's still a process there. Here's the call.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field is confirmed. Interception, first down Dallas.
And so Heath has his second pick today. First fourth quarter takeaway the last 7 games. And so now that word that Jason Garrett used. Can the Cowboys finish? They've lost 6 in a row, trying desperately to get this win and stay in the NFC East with Tony Romo coming back next week. But they've got to finish business here. 5:42 to go. They're going to run it. Oh, McFadden in trouble and barely gets out of the end zone. William Golston blew that play up.
That's good defense right there. Penetration, and then watch the swarm. Golston penetrates, unblocked. Witten tries to block him. He gets there, and here comes Chris Conte and the rest of them. That's great defense by the Buccaneers.
McFadden, coming off 3 great games, has been completely shut down. 17 carries, only 32 yards today. That lost 7. From the 2, blitz, Castle throws, perfect throw and a completion. It's Williams, who's going to be about 1.5 yards shy of a first down. Big throw.
Big throw is right. I mean, he's got pressure in his face. The crowd's loud. Matt Castle stands in there and says, I'm starting to get comfortable, and I'm zinging the ball. That's a big-time throw to Terrence Williams.
With 4.5 to play, a 3rd down and 2. And we'll call it a long 1. Play clock running down here. They're going to have to take a timeout. And they do. With 1 on the clock, they're just wasting some time. That time waste won't matter if they don't get this first down. Big play coming up. The Cowboys hanging on to a 3-point lead. Touchdown-less in Tampa. How about this meeting? Tony Romo with Matt Castle and Des Bryant trying to get whose 2 cents in there.
There's Des right back there saying, hey, give it to me, give it to me. And I love the confidence.
Meanwhile, it's on Castle. Huge 3rd down. Blitz coming. Castle gets rid of it, looking for Bryant, and it's incomplete.
And I love the call right here. You've got the one-on-one matchup. You've got one of the top receivers in football. It's a well-thrown football. It's just a really nice play by Sterling Moore, and quite frankly, a drop by Des Bryant. You got to catch that ball. I thought Sterling Moore got his hand in there. That's a flat-out drop.
And now Jones, who's been great punting all day, will do so again. The Bucs defense doing their job. Short kick. Rainey, fair catch, and does it out near the 45-yard line. So the first time that Jones has had a shorter kick today, 38 yards, no return. But Bryant making the drop there, or dropping that football. And you could see this Cowboys team, other than the Patriots game, in their 6 straight losses without Tony Romo, they just are not making the plays, and that's a perfect example down the stretch.
Yeah, and can your quarterback change that? Yes. Tony Romo is one of those players who makes everyone, including the defense, better. That's a perfectly thrown football by Matt Castle. Des Bryant is a great player. Great players make that play.
John, you asked at the very beginning of the game, Buccaneers have their franchise quarterback in Jameis Winston. Got 4 minutes, and maybe you'll have a better idea of that answer. Cowboys with a 3-point lead. 1st and 10, Tampa. Winston back there. Pressure. Throws incomplete. Danger. And there's a penalty. He went for Evans again. They're going to get Brandon Carr.
It wasn't DPI. They're going to get him on a hold.
Prior to the pass, holding. Defense number 39. 5-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
You see an over route. Brandon Carr one-on-one. You see the hold early, and then there is contact late, but I don't know. I think at some point you let these guys play in this type of situation.
That's a tough one. They'll run it. Morton pushing the pile forward. He's got 4. Hardy on the tackle. Tell you one thing, John Evans, we documented his drops, but with Jackson out, and just you can't be any more green in the wide receiver core than they are. Guy's got 8 for 126 and has drawn, what, 3 penalties today?
And he wants the ball. And that's a lot of people would go into the shell and say, take me out, coach. I can't catch it. It's in my head. And instead, he's doing his best to get open, and he's making things happen when he's drawn 3 penalties, had 8 catches.
4-man rush. Winston all day over the high throw, but Dye with a good catch and a spin and still going. Dante Dye, the rookie from Heidelberg.
When I first saw that on the roster this year, I was thinking Germany, but no, it's a small school in Ohio. And Dante Dye is a guy that lit up the offseason, has struggled of late getting off press and things, but he's a guy they like with the ball in his hands. He says he can do special things, did Dirk Cutter, and that's exactly what he does right there.
Comes through with a 1st down. Time now an issue. 2:39 and counting left in this game. Bucs down by 3. Winston coming near side, a catch, and then a quick hit immediately. It was Morton with the catch, short gain, and then McClain with the stick.
One of the things with Rolando McClain, Rod Marinelli, the defensive coordinator, said this is like the end of training camp. He's got those camp legs. It looks like he's pulling his way out. He's been impressive today. Been all over the field.
Time for Winston. Now a late blitz over the middle. Behind him, Myers. What a catch. In midair. Reaching behind him to haul it in, and it's a gain of 17. We go to the 2-minute warning with Myers, the bubble, and the completion.
Today's game is sponsored by Chevrolet. Find new roads.
Well, there have been some mistakes in this game. I'll tell you what, it's been competitive, it's been close, and so with 2 minutes to go, the Cowboys holding on to a 3-point lead, trying to end their 6-game losing streak and quite frankly stay in the division race with Tony Romo waiting to come back next week. But now, all eyes on Jameis Winston. First trip inside the red zone for Tampa all day. Winston over the middle. He's got a completion. And it's Sims with the catch down at the 10. 150 and counting. Cowboys 2 timeouts. Tampa with all 3.
This is that area of the field inside the red zone where everything shrinks. The windows are a little tighter. Jameis Winston has to be aggressive, but yet he has to be very careful with that football. They are in field goal range. They can tie this game. You want the touchdown to put it away, but you got to be careful protecting the football.
Keep in mind, Winston can run. He ran one in from here last week. Sims on the draw up the middle, 1st and goal. Down to the 5. And now if you're Dallas, John, you have to think about these timeouts with 2 left, right? And they call one. Cowboys call a timeout, 1:16 to go. Bucks knocking on the doorstep, down by 3. 1:18 to play. Cowboys up by 3. This has been a good drive for Tampa, though, and Winston has been clutch in this 4th quarter. So they marked the ball on the 6. Only 1 timeout left for Dallas. Sean Lee, their star linebacker, can only look on, out with a concussion today. They'll run it. Martin. And the Cowboys, I'm assuming, have to take this time out. They do. 1:13 to go. 2nd and goal for Tampa, down by 3. Hang in. 2nd and goal. Cowboys out of timeouts. Buccaneers need 3 to tie. Obviously, anything else puts them in front. They're going to throw the ball. Winston going to loft it up and incomplete. Wyatt stunned at that. And now 3rd and goal.
He tried to sneak Jaworski Lane out to the flat on the hard play action, but there's no sneaking when Jaworski Lane's 5'11", 260 pounds. See Jaworski Lane coming to the flat. Again, Hitchens, who's had a fantastic game all over the coverage, and Jameis Winston throws it away.
But it stops the clock. Cowboys are out of timeouts. And now you're trying to win the game here. 3rd and goal. Winston, pressure, steps away, looking to run, diving, he wants the ball, Cowboys recover, no signal. What do we got? Flag on the play, 2.
Padman did a tremendous job stripping that football.
He lost it.
That's out before he's across the goal line. It's not Padman. He just loses it on his own.
He just dropped it. My goodness. And the Cowboys did look like they recovered. Penalty, obviously, is an enormous call coming here.
Jameis Winston going up and over just like he did last week.
Holding. Defense number 38. Passes this to the goal. Automatic 1st down. From the 1-yard line, from the spot of the fumble.
My goodness.
It's Jeff Heath. And there's the hold right there as Russell Shepard. And that's going to negate the fumble that Jameis Winston, Jeff Heath, has had 2 interceptions in this game.
That's on the backside of the play, but that's not where the penalty was. So instead of Dallas getting the ball and winning the game, a penalty certainly was a penalty on Heath. We'll show it to you for real. Here you go.
Here's Jeff Heath right there. Watch him hook Russell Shepard as he's coming across the line of scrimmage. Across the line. And that's before Jameis Winston lost the football.
Just to give you that second look. Unbelievable. So here are the Cowboys thinking they've won the game. Winston trying to make an acrobatic play just like last week, drops it, and instead the penalty negates it all. First and goal for Tampa, down 3, but the Cowboys have no timeouts.
And again, it comes back to finishing. At critical moments, do you make the plays? Do you not hurt yourself? The Cowboys to continue to hurt themselves.
Now, John, clock.
From the 1 to the half-yard line, automatic first down.
Clock management if you're Tampa, young team. You just got to score here, right? Like you can't think about.
What's the bottom line? You play to win. You aren't playing to tie this game. You're playing to win. But I'd give it to Doug Martin right about now.
But you can't think about wasting time. You just got to get it right. Here you go. First and goal. It's a bootleg. Winston gonna walk in. Tampa in front.
Well, a great call by Dirk Cutter because everybody's thinking what I was thinking. Give it to Doug Martin, but that's Jameis Winston. The mobility he has, the holding penalty gives him an extra opportunity, and he makes the most of it. Big time fake. It holds everybody, including Wilcox, and Jameis Winston strolls into the end zone.
That was a great call by Dirk Cutter. Now, extra point is big, and it's no gimme. There have been 31 missed extra points in the league this year. So Barth has to hit this to make it more than a 3-point game. And he does. And it's the Bucs by 4. Cowboys out of timeouts with 54 seconds to go. Jameis Winston on the bootleg puts the Bucs in front, 10-6. Well, when you want to look at mistakes and why you're not winning football games, it's easy to say, well, we don't have Tony Romo, John, but the Cowboys again not making these plays. Bryant with a drop and then this crucial penalty. And on that play, Winston fumbled. The Cowboys recovered. The game was over. Instead, another chance, a bootleg run. And Dallas looks up and says, wait a second, we're down 4 with 54 seconds to go and no timeouts. And they're on the verge of losing their 7th straight game.
And Jason Witten said it. It's what's been plaguing this team. Success in the critical moments. They beat themselves in the critical moments.
Williams trying to make something happen. Look at Terrence Williams. Good return, but he did waste a lot of time. 43 seconds left, and they need a touchdown, and there's no timeouts. And we get a penalty far side of the field. Discussing this flag.
After the play was over, personal foul. Kicking team number 24. 15-yard penalty from the end of the run. Automatic first down.
Lovie Smith said it to us before, so you see why the teams come in 2-6 and 3-5. Former Cowboy Mike Jenkins just can't do it. That's selfish. I don't know what happened at the end of this play, but Mike Jenkins, you can't do it at any time, in particular at that time. It's a late hit. He's given himself up.
I don't think that was
No,
Jenkins.
I don't think that's it. I think it happened later.
But that gives Dallas a chance. No timeouts, though. So Castle, 4-man rush. Has time. Steps up, just a little dump off over the middle. McFadden up the middle, but they've got to hurry. It's a first down. Try and spike it here. Ticking with 30 seconds to go. They'll spike it down. 28 seconds on the clock. Like, who is trying to mistake the game away less?
I know.
It's the way today has gone.
Now, the one thing you have, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you have the most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL,
Yes.
Dan Bailey. So, tremendous weapon, and that gift by the Buccaneers with the personal foul gave them an opportunity. They need the touchdown, though, does Matt Castle and the Cowboys.
Yep. down 4. That extra point made it that 4-point game. Castle got to heave it deep downfield for Bryant. One-on-one. Intercepted. Bradley McDougald. And that's a wrap.
I'm just telling you, Matt Castle did the right thing. You throw it up there to Des Bryant. Des Bryant's got to make a better effort on that football. He allowed McDougald to go steal that ball from him. He's trusting one of the best receivers in football. And Des Bryant's got to go make a play on this football. Is there a little contact? Absolutely, but Des Bryant got to go up and get that football, and at the least, have it be an incomplete pass.
You get away with one there, John?
There's a little push, but there's contact, and again, I'll say it, Des, you got to go up and get that football. At least break it up so it's not an interception.
Well, if you thought there was drama in Dallas this week, now a 7-game losing streak. And they find themselves, do these Cowboys, at 2-7. Meanwhile, the Bucs, it was ugly at times, but they're 4-4, and they're in the mix behind their rookie quarterback who played well in that fourth quarter. Bucs win it. We're back from Tampa in a moment.